Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to AuscastNetwork.com for details.
Wavelength.
You know, Adelaide has worked really hard over the last few years to build a small bar reputation. When I was a kid, the big night in Adelaide was kind of, staying at home and watching the bill.
Sparking the combos about Adelaide.
As a female Sparky, I did get lots of comments on my gender.
You should be having
Here to make a difference. Yeah, make the difference. Give the youth a voice.
on Fresh 92.7.
Welcome to Wavelength, sparking the convos about Adelaide you should be having. Tonight, I am joined by the one and only, the lovely Adrian, one of our reporters here at Wavelength. How are you tonight?
Hi, I'm great. I'm so excited to finally be here on Studio Live. It's just full circle moment for me.
I know you've been working with us for quite a while now, and it's good to have you in the studio.
Yeah, I think it's been a year and a half, something like that. But I was just always thinking, one day I'll make it to the studio. One day I'll be that person.
You'll make it to the top.
I'll make it to the top. Full circle moment for me. But anyway, tonight's show, this week on Wavelength, we'll be letting you know how to upskill to put yourself in the best position possible for a new world of work.
We'll also be letting you know everything you need to know about the coronavirus. But next, Jamie will be checking in with some of Adelaide's hospitality figureheads to see how they've been holding up since COVID restrictions eased.
Wavelength.
So, Adrian, it's been a couple of months now that we've been allowed to go back to bars and pubs and other venues. Have you been out much personally, or are you keen to get out even?
Yeah, so I've been out a little bit. I haven't been out like proper nights out. You remember those nights where you went out, you were dancing and everything. But now we're not allowed to dance anymore.
I know.
It's so weird. Like you would think that dancing wouldn't be a problem. Like literally, if you stay within your table, your section of the bar that you're allowed to be in, and you wiggle your butt a little bit, that wouldn't hurt anyone, would it?
No, you just go straight to jail.
Now you go straight to jail because that's where you belong.
Well, I mean, I've been out a fair bit, not an insane amount, but getting back to the bars and stuff has been really good. I just wish that we could just dance at a nightclub. That's all I need.
I know. I mean, me personally, I normally go out to karaoke bars anyway. So now, the new norm for me is to just grab the spray sanitizer and spray the microphone every time. And if you don't do, you get told off, spray on the microphone. And it's be like, okay, sorry.
Well, as we're about to hear, Adelaide's bars are remarkably resilient. Many have bounced back, including wine bar Proof. Here's Jamie chatting with the co-owner of Proof, Shane Entridge.
Wavelength on Fresh 92.7.
2020 has been a roller coaster for all of us, with mostly every business and industry affected in some way. The hospitality industry has been one of the hardest hitting, with a significant rise in venues having to temporarily and permanently close their doors. Strict regulations are still being enforced nationally, especially in South Australia's neighbour state, Victoria, meaning their venues have had to buckle down and close their doors for a second time this year to help flatten the curve. There is a silver lining, however, as Adelaide has seemingly been in our own little safety bubble, with looser restrictions and the ability for venues to keep their doors safely open. Adelaide hospo businesses and conjoining local booze industries have been working together to support each other in these tumultuous times. It proves one thing: Adelaide businesses are adaptable and Adelaide businesses care about each other. Proof is a beautifully quaint two-storey wine bar just off Weymouth Street in CBD. Having just celebrated their 7th birthday, Proof had one of the small bar venue licenses in Adelaide and has been featured in the likes of Australian Bartender. With me today, we have co-owner of Proof Wine Bar, Shane Entridge. No stranger to the Adelaide hospo industry, Shane not only owns Proof, but also has Adelaide Hills wine label Hills Collide. Hey Shane, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
How's life as a South Australian small venue owner in today's climate?
It's certainly the most unique scenario we've faced as an industry and as a bar. We're open. There's a bit to be thankful for. Clearly facing some challenges as an industry. Since restrictions have lifted, as a community, we've seen people really enjoy the opportunity to come back out and socialise. It's encouraging to see people keen to get back and support local business.
What have been your initiatives to support local businesses?
It was certainly a focus of ours when we reopened to make sure that the products that we're offering were probably more South Australian focused or based than ever before. Given the size of our town, a lot of our customer base know a lot of the distilleries and know a lot of the wineries that are on the list, so they've got the ability to support someone that they know. And
has COVID changed your business model forever?
The short answer is yes. We went into lockdown, we came out, we've been able to reopen the doors under restrictions, but working back towards what we normally offer as a product.
What is the best thing that has come out of these challenges?
Normality can be restored when you go to work, you know, and that was taken away from everyone for a while, and we're able to employ again, which is a huge part of what we do as an industry, is employ young people.
What can we do to best support local SA bars and venues?
First of all, I mean, showing up, you know, having the confidence to leave the home again and go and enjoy a glass of wine with your friends. Making sure you show a level of understanding to the venue that you're attending, that they're going to show you the best time they possibly can within the restrictions that they're under. You know, we're a small enough industry in this state to make sure that we can look after one another really well, and I think that's really important.
So you also own Adelaide wine label Hills Collide, based off of the Adelaide Hills.
That's right.
Have you found that you're getting more support by local venues?
Local venues, absolutely. What we noticed when all the venues shut down, we experienced a spike in sales, which was a really positive thing, and people were keen to show support to a new and small brand that had just started sort of before all this happened, and there was a risk there that it could affect us long term, but we saw a really positive response to the wine label, which is really nice, and we were out delivering wines on people's doorsteps and making sure we did all that in the correct manner, and it was an oddly successful period for the wine label in what was a pretty trying time for the wine bar, so it was bittersweet in that sense.
It's been a pretty rocky year for the wine industry in SA. Over the past year, with bushfires happening and then the COVID-19 pandemic, what can we be doing as locals to help support the wine industry and other industries around it as well?
Continue to be enthusiastic about the great products that we have here, and the great operators and the great wineries and wine bars that are in our state. But yeah, get out, have a drink, you know?
Enjoy it while we can.
Absolutely.
Wavelength, sparking the convos about Adelaide you should be having on Fresh 92.7.
That there was Jamie chatting with Shane Entridge, the co-owner of Proof Wine Bar, about how he's found business to be since COVID restrictions eased. And I love how he ended that. Get out there, have a drink.
I mean, on something about he said about don't be afraid of leave the house and have a glass of wine and go out. I don't think anyone was scared. Everyone was pretty keen to leave the house and have a glass of wine.
Yeah,
I personally was. I was like, COVID restrictions are lifted. Oh, now I'm going to go out. Finally. I don't think anyone was scared.
No, I'm still not really that scared. I mean, it is strange though, like operating within these parameters. And I think that even though that Proofs and his winery have both been super successful, I think what must be the most frustrating is having to deal with these insane restrictions that are just changing all the time.
Having to deal with the very strange situation and the drunk people, because you go out, you get tipsy, you want to dance, and then they have to come up to you and be like, "Sorry, you can't do it," and I bet that's disheartening for them as a venue.
Yeah.
And very annoying, having to take care of all these drunk people and tell them, you can't dance. I'm sorry, but you can't do it.
Taking care of drunk people is probably the worst job anyone could have.
Within COVID or without COVID, it was always a very daunting experience.
Literally.
But anyway, coming up after the break, we'll be getting into our lead story for the night about the new world of work and how to reskill for it.
Wavelength.
So tonight, Adrian, you and Jamie, who we literally just heard from, have put together a great story for us. Can you tell me a bit about it?
Yeah, so I think we can all agree that the workforce, the workspace, the job market in general has been quite up and down lately with all the COVID restrictions and lots of people losing their jobs due to the pandemic. So we wanted to know a little bit about what can we, especially young people, do to find our way through this, navigate ourselves in this situation that it's not the easiest for anyone. So we talked to a economist first to try and get like a good perspective and good opinions on what is going on in words that we could all understand. And then we talked to TAFE SA because in this time where we don't know what's going to happen, isn't it the best time to reskill yourself?
True.
Learn new things, because there's nothing, you're never going to lose anything by learning new things.
True.
So we talked to TAFE SA and we wanted to know what industries we should be looking at.
Totally. Yeah, the job market is pretty dry from what I've heard. So many of us are having to look for new jobs, perhaps in areas we've never worked in before. Here's Jamie and Adrian chatting with economist Daryl Gobbett about this new era and what's in store for job seekers at the moment.
Wavelength on Fresh 92.7.
If you're anything like us, when you hear jobs, 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 all you do is panic. That's right, youth unemployment. And that's completely understandable. But we want to know, what should we be doing as young people to be reskilling for the future? Close to 600,000 Aussies lost their job this year, and 1 in 3 Aussies are looking for new work post-pandemic. We want to know what the future of jobs looks like and where jobs will be in SA. First up, we talk with the godfather of South Australian economics, Daryl Gobbett. Daryl is the current director of the Fleurieu Partners and has experience as chief economist and financial advisor for multiple companies. Safe to say, he knows SA jobs.
Okay, I'm Daryl Gobbett. I'm an economist, retired, but I've had a long history with watching over the South Australian economy, employment.
What is the Australian job market currently looking like?
The Australian market is being very heavily impacted by what's happening in Queensland with tourism, and then what's happening in Victoria because of the lockdown of their economy. So we've got a number of things which are really meaning that the employment outlook is really quite uncertain, but particularly in areas like hospitality. But another big area is in the area of international education, where we just haven't had the students to be able to come in from overseas. If we look at South Australia in particular, we've actually started to see some good recovery in the job market. So while we lost around about 50,000 jobs between March and April, May, we've actually got back about 20,000 of those jobs.
What is the biggest industry now compared to this time last year?
The biggest individual sector is actually, and this is an area really of very strong growth, is in healthcare and social assistance. So initially we saw with the hospitals when elective surgery got put off, that there were a lot of job losses there. But then as the virus took hold and we had to have more healthcare being provided to people who either had the virus or expected to have it. And we've also seen it in the aged care sector, that those jobs have now started to grow. And again, and that's been really one of the strongest growth sectors over the last several years. Manufacturing in South Australia was really always a manufacturing state. Well, over the last 15 to 20 years, we've probably lost about 30,000 jobs in that sector, and that's taken out a lot of jobs for young people. So we've seen healthcare and social assistance jobs over the last 15 to 20 years almost double, and it's now the single biggest employer in South Australia. So that's going to be an area of significant job growth and significant upskilling.
Where are future jobs in SA and Adelaide going to be?
Well, I think they'll be, talk about this manufacturing sector, particularly with the focus on food processing. We're a major exporter of vegetables, from the areas around Virginia, Angle Vale, around there. And I think that's an area of good job growth. So because this area is actually becoming much more technical and complex. There's marketing, there's the logistics, how you package and transport. There's a lot of jobs there, I think, that are actually being quite upskilled.
What advice do you have for young people looking for work?
I think they've got to be aware of what are the types of jobs that are around. So, have a look, or, when they're at school or at university, have a talk to the counsellors to what type of jobs are there. Have an understanding, and this is where I think like what TAFE is aiming to do with some of the employers, is look at whether there are either apprenticeships or ways in which you can get work experience while you're actually at TAFE or university, so that you get an understanding of what are the requirements for the job. Understand what businesses are doing, just so you get an understanding of what are the types of skills, what are the types of aptitudes you might need. But I think it also puts in context what you're learning either at TAFE or at university, if you have a bit of an understanding of what the job actually means.
Wavelength, sparking the convos about Adelaide you should be having on Fresh 92.7.
That there was you, Adrian, and reporter Jamie chatting with Daryl Gobbett about this new job market reality we're heading into post-COVID. A lot of really interesting things there. Obviously, South Australia used to be such a manufacturing hub in Australia. We made so many cars here. The manufacturing industry was giant. We've lost all those, but that was a few years ago. And now with COVID, it's like a double whammy because so many people lost their jobs. Either again or they lost these new jobs that came up. And what did you say? 50,000 jobs were lost?
Yeah.
That's insane.
It's ridiculous. It sounds like impossible. Is there actually 50,000 jobs out there? Yes, and we lost them. It was ridiculous. But I thought it was also very interesting thinking about all these industries like manufacturing that maybe young people don't necessarily think about it outside of the perspective of maybe literally picking up the vegetables from the ground. But there's lots of, as he said, lots of jobs in marketing and logistics and lots of other things that we maybe as young people don't really think about immediately after we hear fruit and vegetables, really. So it's important for young people to know that those jobs are there. and there could be a job that you might be interested in.
And the healthcare and the aged care sector point that he made was really interesting. I think for me, it's really interesting. I've been speaking to some friends, and maybe this is a bit more philosophical, but they're like, during this period, they've had spent more time at home, I guess, and had time to reflect about what they want from life. And they're like, well, this whole situation just made me realize I want to help people, and I want to actually be able to do a job that is in demand and that people need in this society.
Yeah, absolutely.
Healthcare is one of those things right now, and I think that this pandemic's really shown that it's one of the most important jobs in that you could possibly do right now.
And obviously, healthcare is one thing that's never going to go out of business. Really, we're all going to be sick in the future. And once we get rid of the COVID pandemic and we get out of the tunnel and we're all healthy, we're still going to get sick with other things in the future. So we're still going to need people in the public health sector.
So right then we just heard from Daryl Gobbett, the economist, talking about what the economy actually is like. But later in the show, you and Jamie, you've done a chat with TAFE for us, and they'll be sort of exploring how you can actually reskill and get the talents, the skills that you need to be able to take on these new roles that are available in this post-COVID world. Anyway, we'll be getting back into our story about reskilling for this daunting new job market later. But right now, Hamish is going to let you know what the hell is going on in politics this week.
What the hell is going on in politics at the moment? Wavelength on Fresh 92.7.
A week is a long time in the world of politics, and once again, we've got a lot to catch up on. The biggest story this week was the sentencing of the Australian gunman who murdered 51 people in the Christchurch massacre last year. In a landmark verdict, a judge handed down the maximum sentence of life with no parole for the first time in New Zealand's history. PM ScoMo has also stated he's willing to consider extraditing the perpetrator back to Australia, saving New Zealand taxpayers from footing the bill for his lengthy sentence. Meanwhile, the Royal Commission into the aged care industry has revealed damning statistics that a further $621 million is needed to bring aged care homes to a benchmark of basic standards. The grim findings have intensified the criticism levelled against the government for its failure to manage the COVID crisis within the sector, which has led to the deaths of 300 Victorians living in aged care. Also in the news, textbooks used in Victorian schools have been found to contain Chinese government propaganda. The study resources, which have now been recalled, contained a map of China which claimed ownership over the South China Sea, which has been contested by several countries, including Australia, for many years. The books also devoted 2 pages to Chinese communist messaging, which critics claim are straight out of the party playbook. Finally, the coalition is considering rolling back a 25-year ban on importing parrots, and the national unemployment rate is projected to peak at 13% by the end of the year. And that's what the hell's been going on in politics this week.
Wavelength, sparking the convos about Adelaide you should be having on Fresh 92.7.
Thanks for that, Hamish. Stay tuned for part 2 of Adrian and Jamie's story about the post-COVID job market coming up later in the show.
Wavelength.
Before the break, Adrian and Jamie spoke with leading economist Daryl Gobbett about the state of SA's economy.
But how do you actually get in a position where securing these jobs is possible? We spoke to TEF SA about how South Australians can reskill via their many courses to come out job ready.
Wavelength on Fresh 92.7.
Next, we interview David Coltman, the Chief Executive of leading education provider TAFE SA, on the importance for preparing for future employment where you can gain real-world experience and practical skills.
My name's David Coltman. I'm the Chief Executive at TAFE SA. It's a role I've had since April last year, so relatively new to TAFE SA. But I've worked in vocational education now for 20 plus years, both here and in New Zealand.
So why is TAFE a great option for young people?
I think why TAFE is such a great option for young people is that it's about getting skills that are relevant to employment. At the moment, we certainly know that getting jobs has probably got harder than it's ever been, and it's going to be a little bit like that for a while. So what we need to have is we need to be job ready when we're applying for jobs, and that means that we've got to have the skills that employers are looking for.
So how can TAFE reskill young people for future employment?
We find a huge number of our students are either upskilling, so looking at getting more skills for the job they currently have, or reskilling, which is where they've decided that the current work that they're doing or the current non-work that they're doing isn't what they want to be doing, and so they're looking at getting a different skill set and one that's aimed for the future. In South Australia, we're seeing huge growth and demand for skills around the defence industries, cyber industries, the caring industries, so personal support, nursing, all those sorts of health professions.
How is TAFE different to other educational centres?
We have, I guess, the largest range of courses that are getting people job ready right across, and we deliver right across the state. So we deliver to 55,000 students right across South Australia each year, and most importantly, we deliver in the workplace. One of the key features that TAFE SA really surprised me is that a large proportion, almost 75% of our students are currently employed. So that means they're working while they're learning and learning while they're working. It always depends on whether the jobs are available, but what we're seeing is that TAFE graduates are highly valued and employers are looking to us to train people for their industries.
How can young people learn more about TAFE SA?
So obviously the easiest way would be to jump on our website, which is www.tafesa.edu.au, or call the info line 1800 882 661, or just give us an email, info@tafesa.edu.au. So we're here. Pop into the campuses too.
And is there anything else you'd like to add?
It's a really uncertain time for people, and I know that making decisions about your future when you don't know what the future's going to be can be really scary. So my suggestion is to throw yourself in there, give something a go, look at getting some skills that will be applicable for the job that you want to do, but also for jobs that you don't yet know exist. It's just important to get out there, give it a go. Don't be afraid, and we'll be here to help you every step of the way.
Lastly, we wanted to know firsthand how gaining new skills can indeed change your life and career. So we talked to Kate Jansen, winner of the SA's Apprentice of the Year Award and former TAFE student.
What made you choose TAFE over other education centres?
Yeah, so TAFE has a good building block for chefs and hospitality. So I started doing a vet course in high school. And so I was able to do 1 day a week doing that. So that kind of got me into the feel of TAFE and how they run the chef side of things. And so, yeah, it was just kind of an obvious choice for me to then continue on with TAFE. It's relaxed learning as well. You're getting the right amount of skills and you're gaining all your knowledge, but it's not in a high-pressured, intense area. Yeah, it's quite you can kind of feel like you can be yourself as well while still learning as much as you can.
Can you explain in more detail what was your experience like at TAFE?
TAFE was good to be able to add the extra bits into your apprenticeship. When I was in high school, I went in from scratch and I was learning all the new, cool, exciting things, and then I went and did my apprenticeship, and for a bit of that wasn't at TAFE. So then was able to learn that side of things, and then I went back to TAFE again and learned that side of things and the theory side of things as well. You don't, as an apprentice, you don't sit down and you don't read theory sides of things. You read cookbooks, but not the rest of that. So learning dietaries and all that stuff was such a massive part of the theory, which, gains so much knowledge. You can take that back to your workplace.
Did your time at TAFE and the skills you gained there help you win the Apprenticeship of the Year Award?
Yes. Yeah, it did. I think almost more the theory side of things, because you gain more knowledge of how be in a kitchen to be a part of a team, helping others as well. So yes, that did help a lot with that side of things.
Would you say that studying at TAFE has shaped your career and future?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. TAFE definitely helps and encourages you. And even experiences I've learned through TAFE, through lecturers who are still in the industry, who can be oh, look, I see that maybe you're not doing that 100% right. Just the support from TAFE as well throughout this whole thing. They push you to be the best you can be. You're never going to be able to move up unless you've gained those skills. So, and that's where TAFE comes in as well. They're helping you gain those skills to be able to move up. You just feel like you have that support from your trainer, which is really cool.
Do you reckon it's a good time to gain new skills and enroll yourself in TAFE?
Definitely. There's, I was reading the other day that I think IT and construction, there's a lot more jobs opening up there. So what a cool time to reskill yourself and learn some new things and possibly get a job in IT or construction.
Absolutely,
And if you're at a point in life where you don't really know where you want to go, TAFE courses, even during COVID, I was if I can't go back to work, maybe I'll go do a business course online or something like that. I don't think you're going to lose anything by gaining new skills. You've got nothing to lose, and majority of the time you find you'll love it.
Wavelength, sparking the convos about Adelaide you should be having on Fresh 92.7.
That was Adrian and Jamie chatting with a number of people from TAFE SA, including the chief executive, about how to really take advantage of this moment, reskill and pivot for what jobs are currently actually on the market. Great organisation, TAFE.
Yes, very good. I mean, I've obviously heard of TAFE. I have never been to TAFE, and I have never been to the building actually until I did this interview. And I was just like flabbergasted. Just the environment, the atmosphere that they have there. It made me want to join TAFE and learn new skills myself. So yeah, I mean, kudos to them.
Yeah, I mean, and like we heard at the end, there's really never been a better time to reskill. And
never.
You said before, really stuck with me. What have you got to lose? Like,
you have nothing to lose.
Exactly.
Nothing to lose.
It always pays to learn something new. So if you're in the position where COVID may have made you lose your job, maybe it's made you reassess your priorities in life, maybe you want to try something different, like, why not give it a go?
And even like Kate was saying, it's not for people who want to learn new skills from scratch. Like, she had already some experience in cooking and kitchen running and whatever, but she gained even more skills and she upskilled from things she already knew. So even if you are in a field, that you can still learn new things.
Yeah, totally.
And become a better version of yourself.
That's all we ever want.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, Adrian. And of course, Jamie, who helped out on that story too.
Thank you, Jamie.
Anyway, she's been on the show so much tonight.
The Jamie Show.
She's taken over.
Wavelength.
Right now, we're getting into our weekly segment where Wavelength explains what has happened with the coronavirus this week.
Wavelength on Fresh 92.7.
Another week, another round of coronavirus news to bring you up to speed on all that's been happening during the global pandemic. Firstly, this week, there's increasingly promising signs coming out of Victoria as COVID-19 infections continue to drop. Although the numbers have been generally in the low hundreds, varying from day to day, Saturday saw case numbers drop to just 94, a pretty stark contrast to days earlier this month where over 700 infections were being recorded daily. The last time we saw numbers that low was 55 days ago on July the 5th. Unfortunately, though, death numbers have continued to stay relatively high, most of which have been linked to aged care facilities. The state's now recorded over 500 deaths. Despite the declining infections, though, Victorian Premier Daniel Andrews says it's too soon for their Stage 4 restrictions to be lifted, but with growing anger and fatigue among Victorians, it could be a pretty tricky time for the Premier. PM Scott Morrison's also calling on states and territories to open up their borders, saying it's causing major stress and strain for regional and border communities. However, it could be some time yet before we see a full opening, with concerns we here in SA might face issues as New South Wales infections continue to grow. And speaking of SA, we seem to have dodged a pretty massive bullet following the Theberton cluster, which Chief Public Health Officer Professor Nicholas Spurrier says is now closed. Professor Spurrier reckons increased testing rates among young people have helped to bust the virus, with just one active case remaining in the state. Feels pretty good to be in SA, doesn't it? And turning overseas now, as global cases hit a staggering 25 million, a new trend is really starting to worry health authorities. Anti-mask protests are springing up throughout the world, filled with COVID skeptics calling for an end to restrictions. The majority have been in Europe, which has been one of the hardest hit places by the virus. Naturally, little social distancing was observed, with some Melbourne residents reportedly planning a similar event next weekend in defiance of major lockdowns. Well, after all that, let's try and end on a more positive note. Vaccine trials are still ongoing both here in Australia and overseas, with early indications looking positive. Hopefully we'll have one soon and can all get back to life as normal.
Wavelength, sparking the convos about Adelaide you should be having on Fresh 92.7.
That there was Andrew letting you know everything you need to know about the coronavirus. Such good news coming from Victoria over the weekend. They went below 100.
Yay!
Woo! That's like amazing news. They've just been, I've been watching their numbers. I remember the days when it was like hundreds and hundreds every day. Mm-hmm. And to get this low after so many weeks must be such a relief.
It shows that we're doing something right.
Right.
We're taking it seriously. We here in Adelaide, we're doing it differently, but they are doing things right. They have taken everything seriously. And they really want the numbers to go down.
I know, and it's just one of those things that can get so out of control. So I've said this every week since the Stage 4 in Victoria came into effect, but we are with you there. We are so with you. Everyone in Adelaide is just, that I talk to is it's just so awful to watch what's going on over there. They're so close to us.
It is, and I feel like because we kind of in a privileged position here because we haven't had that many cases. The cluster that we had is under control.
Yeah, just one active case in the state.
We're doing so well that all we can do is tell them we're here for you. Do it. You can do it. You're gonna get out of this.
Yeah.
And obviously, me being Spanish, I know that in Europe, it's been quite different. So I think that we should all be very proud that here in Australia, even though we had this little situation over in Melbourne, we're doing great. We're doing very good. We should be proud of ourselves.
100%. I'm so with you there. Anyway, thank you for that, Andrew.
Wavelength.
It's time for Heaps Good News. The segment where we remind you that there's some great stuff still going on in the world.
I'm so impressed with your singing voice. We should just change the opening song for Heaps Good News just to you.
Just me.
Just singing.
It's gonna be.
Anyway, this week Sam has the Heaps Good News stories for us. Take it away, Sam.
I know there's gonna be
Heaps Good News on Wavelength.
Well, happy Spring Eve, everyone. Well done, we've survived another winter. Well, almost anyway. Tomorrow is the first day of spring. Winter, we can leave it behind us. No doubt, jacarandas and desert peas will be blooming, birds will be singing, and especially the magpies. And if you like the sound of a magpie, but you don't want to get swooped, then local Adelaide man Mark Muscat has you covered, because Mark has perfected a magpie call. Here's his magpie cover of Happy Birthday.
Happy birthday, magpie call for you.
Yes, believe it or not, that noise was coming from a man. Elsewhere in town, though, an angler caught a 10-pound carp this week in the River Torrens. Bad for the fish, but good for him, I guess. But the real good news goes to scientists from New South Wales who have worked out a simple but brilliant way to protect African cattle from lion attacks. Simply put, the researchers started painting eyes on the back end of the cattle. This way, when a lion starts to sneak up, they see the fake eyes on the rump end of the cow and assume they've been spotted, so they give up the attack. This way, the farmers don't need to shoot the lions and the cows are left in peace. Brilliant. Win-win. That's good news.
The beeps you're hearing are real-time signals from the Neuralink in Gertrude's head.
And in the final good news animal story this week, tech billionaire Elon Musk showed off some pigs that he implanted with tiny computers. Musk says the Neuralink computer, which is attached to the brain of the pigs, detects brain activity and is like a Fitbit for your brain.
So this Neuralink connects to neurons that are in her snout. So whenever she snuffles around and touches something with her snout, that sends out neural spikes, which are detected.
According to Musk, the device and research could help those with severe spine and brain injuries. So fingers crossed it actually is good news and not just the start of a horrible real-life Black Mirror episode. Oh, and one more thing. This week, the sun won't set until after 6 p.m. It's just a little thing, but I think we could all use the extra daylight, and maybe it's a sign of things getting better. So enjoy the extra sunshine, enjoy spring, Adelaide. And that's just a tiny fraction of the good news this week.
Wavelength, sparking the convos about Adelaide you should be having on Fresh 92.7.
Thank you for that Heaps Good News, Sam. And thank you, Adelaide, for listening and sticking with us tonight on Fresh.
Make sure you're subscribed to the Wavelength podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else you get your podcasts. You can listen back to our old episodes right now, and you'll be the first to know when tonight's episode goes up.
Wavelength.
Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to AuscastNetwork.com for details.